1983 was the coldest part of the Cold War, at least since the Cuban Missile Crisis.
I was thinking if I just made a movie showing what nuclear war was, I could unseat Ronald Reagan when he ran for re-election.
What? You out of your mind?
P.S. Never thought it would get on the air.
The award-winning documentary Television Event came out back in 2020, but it's experiencing a resurgence, being streamed and highly talked about. The film focuses on the making of the controversial 1983 movie The Day After, which depicts what would happen if the Cold War actually ended in mutual nuclear bombing.
The director of Television Event, Jeff Daniels, joins us now. Jeff, thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Robin. Great to be here. Hi, Larry.
Hi.
You know, I have somewhat of a memory of this movie, and for those who don't know, talk about getting something like this on the air that really scared people half to death. How does that even get on a network show in a channel in 1983?
That's the exact question I had. I thought, how could a family-friendly network like ABC, the network that gave us Happy Days and The Love Boat, put nuclear war drop a nuclear bomb on the American living room? I had to know how this film was made. So I went to the director. He gave me a lot of his time, and I found a story that was a David and Goliath story in so many ways. I just had to tell it.
Yeah, people have seen Terminator and all these apocalyptic movies. Why was this one any different?
I think it has to do with the time it was made. 1983, this was the time when more people were watching network television than ever before or since.
Yeah.
That's why you can get an audience of 100 million people watching the same thing at the same time. And I think it was a ratings opportunity for ABC, but for the makers of the film, it was an opportunity to really show Americans what nuclear war looked like.
And talk about the impact of this. Ronald Reagan actually watched it, said he was greatly depressed after seeing it. What happened in the world of politics after this?
You have a president who was an actor, someone who understood what good movie making can do, how it can affect an audience. I think Reagan understood that when you have a film like this that shows the effects of a nuclear war, you're seeing what it would look like to survive a nuclear war. And I think that Reagan felt that this was, in a way, a threat to his plan of deterrence, of peace through strength. So for that reason, you don't see Reagan talking about nuclear war being survivable or winnable after this film came.
But this also pivoted his negotiations with Mikhail Gorbachev, right, to slow down the arms race?
Well, 100 million Americans saw this film. 200 million Russians may have actually seen this film because it was the first TV movie to screen in the Soviet Union.
Wow.
So Gorbachev saw this film. They both had a shared emotional experience. I feel like this film very much could have led to negotiations to actually cut down the amount of arms instead of building them up, which is what we're doing now.
Other than fear, I wonder what other impact it had on how people behaved. I read that this is what sent everybody to the mall to spend their money because they felt like there was no tomorrow.
You know, I talked to a lot of people who were around at that time who were not 5 years old, as I was when the film came out, and they say, you know, we weren't really thinking that much about nuclear war. I think people had their head in the sand a lot. I mean, I was thinking of global warming when this film, when I was thinking of making this film. How do we wake people up to think about something that they would rather not? So, I think that this is really something that's showing Americans what kind of impact this TV movie had at that time. I think allows us to understand that we really do have far more in common. And if we have shared emotional experiences like TV movies that these TV movies provide, that's what really can bring us together despite our differences of opinion. And and get us, talking together again.
Well, for more information, you can check out televisionevent.com or follow them on social media. Jeff, thanks for being
Thanks,
with
Jeff.
us.
Thank you. Thanks, Larry. Thanks, Robin.